those little pieces of history hidden away in the Blackstone Valley is rather significant as far as the development of as a country, isn't it?
It is. This small little park right here is the kind that you can drive by 30, 40 miles an hour and miss it. But this is the site of one of the very first settlements that was based on freedom.
Roger Williams Spring here in East Providence.
That's right.
Rhode Island. And this guy, Roger Williams, he was quite a character, wasn't he?
Absolutely. He's the kind of person that would argue with you even if you agreed with him. John Milton says at one point that you can be saying something that's absolutely correct and still be a heretic if you only say it because someone else told you. And what Roger was doing by arguing with people that even agreed with him was to test and see how strong their beliefs were and what their beliefs were based on.
Now, Roger came here in a winter.
Yes, yes.
And you tell me he's a city boy.
He was born and brought up in London. He went to university at Cambridge. Okay, they're cities. If Roger wanted a new coat or a meal or something like that, he would go to a market or he would go to a tavern. Okay, coming out here to the wilderness, being cast out of Salem, north of Boston, in February, he had at least 2 weeks to get down here to Massasoit, where they could give him some shelter. Okay, where the Native Americans here could give him shelter. That's 2 weeks in the wilderness of somebody that didn't know how to find his way north, south, east, or west, didn't know how to get food out in the wilderness. This was a terrifying aspect for him, but it's something that he could have avoided too. Roger was given the chance to recant any of his ideas in court, but he refused to. He refused to back down on his own beliefs. And the penalty for that was to be cast out into the wilderness. Now, you have to remember, to the 17th century mind, the wilderness was full of savages and spirits and all kinds of things that would terrify a person, particularly someone who brought up in a city. So this is the kind of thing, this is as close to being cast into hell as you possibly could.
And it was his beliefs that drove him to this point.
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of those beliefs that he held so dearly?
Well, the foremost belief was that the government, the magistrates or whoever, had no right to tell you when, where, or how to go to church. That was something that belonged to yourself, your own individual conscience. He also believed that it was right to buy the land from the Native Americans, that you had to deal with the people that were already here. Okay? You couldn't just take the land because the king over in England had given it to you. Okay? The people that were living here had rights to the land. Those are the two major reasons that he got kicked out of Boston. There were some smaller reasons, one being that he didn't feel it was right for a minister to be paid because that made him a mercenary. And there was always contentions with other ministers and other people in the town. But those are the two major reasons. The government didn't have any right to tell you when, where, or how to go to church, and that you had to buy the land from the natives.
And with that belief about the government not telling you when to go to church was also bred tolerance of other people's beliefs.
Oh, absolutely. Roger at one point said, once you've gotten across the bridge of bondage yourself, don't burn it down in back of you. Leave it open. Have a place where everybody can come for their beliefs. Okay? Providence was established, Providence, Rhode Island was established as a place, as a haven for those persecuted of conscience. And that's something that Roger strongly believed, that everybody had the right to follow their own conscience. Shortly after they had established a small settlement here, building houses and starting to plant the fields around here, they got a letter from Plymouth. And Plymouth basically said, Roger, we like you, but we like our relationship with Boston even better. The Seekonk River, the river that's just outside here, is the boundary of the Plymouth colony. You have to go across that somewhere else. You can't stay within the bounds of the Plymouth colony. So Roger and a few others got into a canoe, sailed across the Seekonk River to a place on Gano Street that's now a small park on Gano Street, a place called Slate Rock, where he ran into a group of Narragansetts. And they greeted him with something that's fairly familiar in Rhode Island, saying, it's what cheer Neetop, which is a combination of English and the Native American language. What cheer being pretty standard English for what cheery news do you bring, or what's going on, what's up. And Neetop is the Narragansett word for friend. And Roger Williams runs into these Narragansetts on the other side of the river, and they give him this wonderful piece of property that is now the city of Providence. Whereas Boston and Plymouth and Salem and Hartford wanted well-ordered and well-structured societies and civilizations, Rhode Island was looked on as being this anarchistic place where anybody could believe whatever they wanted. And luckily, out of that diversity of belief came a real strength that the rest of the country, the rest of the colonies, identified with 100 years later.
Very important stuff for us today, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's the foundation of America's freedom, is right here, starting at this little spot, this little bubbling bit of water coming up out of the ground.
That's amazing. And if Roger Williams was with us today, and he saw the great diversity with Islam and You still have Quakers active in the valley.
Absolutely.
Well, what do you think about all this?
I think that would please him more than anything else, that finally people were not persecuted for their conscience.